Previously, he goes to deal with Li, but is blocked by a squad protecting Alliance disciples. He moves to fight the leader. A dagger from his past appears, but before he can use it, the Alliance leader arrives. Thank you for the support. The chapter recaps are a bit long because I enjoy covering the details. It may not be for everyone, but that's what I like. Thank you again. Now to the next chapter. The protagonist remains silent, lost in his thoughts, looking like he's seen a ghost. He grits his teeth, his eyes wandering down in sadness as memories from his past life flood back. He remembers when the war between the Blood Cult and Murim Alliance intensified. Battle after battle, it became clear the Murim Alliance was on the losing side. When this became known, most people began kneeling to the Blood Cult in fear of death. However, the Alliance leader and his sect, the Wudang sect, were a different breed. They held off as best they could. Then the protagonist remembers when the Alliance leader, who had been the guardian of the land, came with his sword to aid in the war. The protagonist feels deep regret. He knows the Alliance leader's death in his previous life was because of the divine artifact he himself created. Back in the present, the protagonist goes down to collect one of his weapons. Given the situation, he knows this isn't the time to get sentimental. He sharpens his gaze as he readies the hidden dagger, thinking the Alliance leader wasn't able to see or sense the presence of this weapon. He looks at the Alliance leader and remembers the Bloodlord didn't sense it until he was attacked. But the protagonist knows he's not safe yet. He begins to sweat, thinking about the worst-case scenario. What if the Alliance leader attacks him? What can he do? He wonders if he can counterattack with his weapon and slowly tries to ready it. But just then, the Alliance leader laughs, finding it quite strange that what he was looking for, he cannot sense at all. He notes this is a first for him. The protagonist looks nervous, knowing he's talking about the hidden dagger. Then the Alliance leader grows suspicious, looking down with curiosity. He comments the protagonist is a very interesting person. The protagonist can feel the weight of his words pressing down on him. But suddenly, a voice comments that the girl must have been frightened by what happened. The protagonist looks back quickly, remembering Seol is there. He watches someone strike Seol's pressure points, putting her to sleep, commenting that everything is all right, little one. We finally see who it is. An old lady. She looks at Seol with the love a mother would show her child as she gently lays her head down. She comments everything is fine now and that she should rest before getting up. The old lady rises after making sure Seol is comfortable, but the protagonist is now even more on edge. He couldn't even sense this person's approach. He needs to know who she is. The old lady speaks up, calling the Alliance leader a little brat. She demands to know why he left in such a hurry. He comments he sensed the large amount of energy coming from here and had no time to spare. He thought there was trouble. Then he apologizes, calling her Boyun. As she walks past, the protagonist searches his memories and recognizes the name. Could she be that person? The divine physician, former sect leader of Ime, the tiger-taming divine healer. He watches as she taps her shoulder, massaging it. Now, how did the most powerful man in the land just happen to show up here? It makes no sense. Let's go back 15 minutes to see what he was doing. We see Boyon and the Alliance leader sharing a meal together. She comments she's been warning him over and over. Those snakes, meaning the corrupt officials, never change. He doesn't respond, remaining silent as he thinks about his past. Too many people have abandoned law and order, stopped caring for the people, thinking only of themselves. That's why he acted, why he became the Alliance leader. To make things right. He feels ashamed, knowing that during his time as leader, nothing has truly changed. She breaks his thoughts, pouring him more wine. She questions if he thought it would be easy to fix everything, calling him a foolish old man. They both look out over the scenery, reflecting on how things became this way. She tells him not to carry everything himself. If it's too hard, he should step down like she did and spend his days doing what he wants. Drinking wine, enjoying life. He takes in her words and feels slightly better. He laughs a little, but suddenly he senses something dangerous and instantly moves to investigate. She comments this isn't something to laugh about. She looks at him with a firm expression, about to say if he falls, there will be no one left to stop the corruption. But she sees he's already gone. She's been talking to herself. She becomes frustrated, calling him an old fool. Now back to the present. She calls him a quick-footed fool as she looks down at Li. The Alliance leader wonders how one of his hand-picked disciples could have been beaten so badly. She examines the damage, commenting, "It's too late." Even if the great divine immortal himself were here, this damage would be irreversible. The squad leader watches, looking frustrated. He thinks about how the protagonist, using his skills, took down Li, a first-rate expert. The protagonist is supposed to be a weakling at third-rate level. He needs to find a way out of this situation. She stands and calls out to the protagonist. She comments the technique used isn't a martial art she's familiar with. She questions if he used an unorthodox martial art, meaning one not from the recognized sects, hinting at demonic arts. The squad leader is shocked to hear this. The Alliance leader's expression shifts from friendly to deeply concerned as he considers such forbidden techniques. He releases his aura. The pressure forces everyone present to their knees, everyone except her. The squad leader, seeing his opportunity, screams that what she said is correct. The protagonist is merely a third-rate warrior who used unknown martial arts to defeat a first-rate warrior. The protagonist grits his teeth. The squad leader continues, looking at the Alliance leader. He claims he didn't want to fight, but as someone who walks the righteous path, he had no choice but to act against such demonic techniques. The Alliance leader looks down at the protagonist, who struggles under the immense pressure. He questions if what the squad leader said is true, asking how the protagonist will explain this situation. The protagonist responds, "There's nothing to explain." Struggling to his feet, he states he used martial arts from his family. He stands and declares that even though his clan has fallen into decline, he is a proud member of the Sichuan Tang clan. Those who dare harm his family with ill intent will receive no pity from him, only his rage. He forces himself into a fighting stance. He's explained the situation to show respect to the Alliance leader, but that ends here. From this point forward, he'll show no mercy. He still has to deal with Li, who violated his family with ill intent. Releasing his fighting spirit and readying his weapons with cold eyes, he states that even if his opponent is the Alliance leader himself, he will reach Li, even if he must fight through the Alliance leader to do it. The Alliance leader's aura intensifies to the point of suffocation. He questions if the protagonist is truly willing to throw his life away over this. His killing intent focuses on the protagonist. The Alliance leader's golden aura flares again. The protagonist notices the change despite struggling under the crushing pressure. The Alliance leader demands an answer. Is this revenge more important than his life? He points his sword toward the protagonist. The protagonist responds, "This is no small revenge." He thinks of his past life's mistakes and knows he must change this outcome. He states he's trying to fix this world, little by little. The Alliance leader looks surprised. The protagonist steals his resolve, declaring he'll do this even if it costs him his life. These words resonate with the Alliance leader. He recognizes this as the path he once walked. The protagonist is still willing to walk forward despite the overwhelming aura pressing down on him. If the protagonist's will is truly that strong, he begins to perform a technique. This alerts the protagonist as he watches the sword technique unfold. The Alliance leader flows from right to left, then stops, centering his sword in a perfect yin and yang balanced strike. The protagonist recognizes the single stream of energy, the principles of Taiji made manifest. He understands now what the elders meant, that sight alone can grant enlightenment. He's amazed by the technique, seeing the beauty within it. As the Alliance leader continues, the protagonist thinks if he were to lose, he wouldn't mind losing to such a magnificent martial skill. The Wudong sword is truly amazing. Overwhelming strength contained within smooth, gentle movements. But suddenly, the Alliance leader raises his voice, shouting, "Get up!" He commands Li Hoxiong to stand. Li's eyes snap open. He jumps up quickly, sees his master and calls out. Li immediately bows with respect, stating his master has arrived. The protagonist stands there, confused by this turn of events. The divine physician steps forward, looking down at Li. She states she knows it's her duty as a physician to help, but Li created this troubling and unnecessary situation. Li looks up, wondering why she's scolding him when he just woke up from nearly dying. The Alliance leader speaks, noting the protagonist went so far as to risk his life for his family, demonstrating true righteousness. Li doesn't know how to respond as he's questioned about how he'll explain what happened, all while the Alliance leader's sword hovers above his head. Lee sees the sword and hesitates, unable to find words with such a threat looming. Seeing no response, the alliance leader turns away, commenting he asked a pointless question. But Lee speaks up, saying he too would risk his life. He claims she came onto him first, that it was her fault. The alliance leader has heard enough. He tells Lee to shut his mouth. If he hears another word, it will only rot his mind further. Lee trembles in fear. The alliance leader approaches the protagonist and apologizes. He states he'll take full responsibility for what happened, and the protagonist shouldn't worry about anything. The protagonist bows respectfully, thanking the alliance leader for his intervention. But Lee suddenly calls out to his master, demanding to know why he's siding with an outsider over his own disciple. The alliance leader looks back with a firm, cold expression of disappointment. He states clearly, he has never had a disciple like him. The meaning is clear. Lee is no longer his disciple. He declares Lee's punishment will be decided by the protagonist. The protagonist puts his weapons away, ready to deliver the punishment Lee deserves. He gathers energy in his right hand as his aura begins to glow, his eyes locked onto his target. Lee tells him to get lost, slowly standing and placing his hand on his sword. He curses at the protagonist and readies his weapon. But the protagonist states death would be too merciful an escape. He strikes with his glowing fist, energy exploding from the impact. The protagonist aimed for something specific, Lee's lower dantian. The energy from the punch forcibly cracks his core. Lee is sent flying backward, bouncing and sliding across the ground before slamming into the far wall. He screams in agony, understanding exactly what just happened to him. The protagonist, still radiating anger through his aura, coldly states that Lee must live a long life, one worthy of his sins. Seeing this, the alliance leader can only feel sadness. Lee was once his disciple. He bears some responsibility for how this turned out. He asks the protagonist if he could handle the squad's judgment himself. The protagonist looks back at him, then at the squad. They're all trembling in fear, knowing their fate is sealed. The protagonist knows the alliance leader will ensure they pay for their actions today. Since the main culprit has been dealt with, this is acceptable. He bows respectfully to the alliance leader, stating he overlooked this junior's earlier rudeness, and he'll do the same now. He thanks him for allowing justice for his family. He walks over to Seol and gently picks her up. As he prepares to leave, the alliance leader stops him. He mentions he'd like to visit the Tang clan once this matter is resolved, asking if the protagonist could spare some time. The protagonist responds while looking forward. He can spare time. He glances back with a slight smile, adding they can share a nice cup of tea. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and like. It really helps me out.